So I'd like to take you back to the beginning. And to be more specific, all the way back to 1889. Welcome, and welcome to 1889. I'm starting from the beginning here, just to make sure we've covered everything. In 1889, the Wall Street Journal was published for the first time, and business papers were forever after pink. Jefferson Davis, former US president, died 1889. Charlie Chaplin and Adolf Hitler were both born this year, just a few days apart. I think Charlie Chaplin made jokes about that later when he made The Dictator. In Paris, the Eiffel Tower was inaugurated at the World Exhibition, the World Fair. I think most of you were too young to have been there, so it was like a kind of a PuppetConf thing. And in Japan, the Nintendo company was formed to publish Hanafuda playing cards. So this all went on in 1889. But more specifically, I want to take you back to one day and one guy. And this is Herbert. And he woke up this morning and he hadn't slept well. Maybe it was because his underwear was itching, but it was more probably because he had a problem to solve. And the problem he had to solve was at his job. He worked as a statistician at the US Census Bureau, Census Office. And they had a problem because they were now faced with doing more with less, a concept that existed all the way back then. And what they were doing at the census office, maybe you all know, but every 10 years there's a census in the US where the entire population is enumerated, so they're collecting facts about the population. And that started a long, long time ago. And the problem was that in the former count in year 1880, they collected information from the population that was then 50 million people. And that took them almost a decade. In fact, in 1889, they had just published the last piece of information from that count. And it was very expensive. And they knew that the population had grown, and now they wanted to ask even more questions. And this was the problem that was facing Herbert. How was he going to do that? And he was this morning going to Washington to discuss this matter. And it didn't help going on a train. It was not a very comfortable ride. It was busy, and he didn't get much time to think about things. And all of a sudden, this man came along and asked for Herbert's ticket. And he handed over his ticket, irritated, yet again being disrupted in his thought. And then when he got the ticket back, Eureka, he got the idea. And now he got the idea how they were going to do the census. And what Herbert invented was this. This is a paper card on which you can record the answers of the census. And his idea was, of course, to cut little holes in this piece of paper. And then, if you had that, he was sure that you could construct a machine, engineer a machine that could read that. So that's what Herman did. And he understood that he needed someone to both invent the machine or construct that, and to then manufacture it, because it probably wouldn't suffice with just one. And to do that, Herman started by growing a mustache, because he was now going to form a hardware company and become a hipster. And if you were a hipster in 1889, this is the sort of mustache you grew. It sort of reminds me of some of the people here at the conference, though. Some things never change, that's true. And what he built, and what his company built, is known as the Tabulating Machine, which had a bunch of relays, and when the cards were passed through this machine, the dials you see there, they counted all the various things that needed to be counted. And now more specifically, you may wonder, what has this got to do with this talk about Geppetto? Well, I think automation makes IT better. And tooling specifically makes it even better because it makes you more productive, more in control, and with higher quality. They expected the census in 1890 to show that the US population was 75 million, but it was in fact only 63. And they've probably done something wrong in the earlier counts, because you can see that the projection of the counts then seems to follow a good curve. I'm not going to talk about that anymore. So what is Geppetto? So for those of you that do not know, so it's tooling, an IDE or an editor if you like. You can edit Puppet manifests, Puppet module metadata, and while you're editing, Geppetto performs incremental validation. So it's like having a backseat driver that keeps telling you, no, go left, go right, wrong, do this instead. And some may be irritated by that, others love it because it helps you achieve results faster. And the things it checks is, of course, the obvious syntax that you have to follow, but also like problematic expressions and stylistic things. Problematic, it's known if you do this, things will blow up. Yes, it is a bug, but it isn't fixed. It's strange behavior. Don't do this. Those sorts of things. Stylistic things are this type of expression should always be the first of the expressions you're stating. It works anyway, but it's just a sort of stylistic form. It also checks all the references. So if you're referring to variable or classes or something and they don't exist, Geppetto will tell you about that. And when it knows about the references, you can follow them. So if you see something mentioned, you can press a button and it takes you to that place in logic where that was defined. That's usually very helpful because you don't know in which module a particular class perhaps came from. So then you can go over and look at the code. Provides quick fixes. Since the problem is known, the solution may also be known, and it's possible to just click on something that corrects the problem for you. Something was misspelled or in the wrong location, and Geppetto can help you move that. There's code completion. You start typing something, press a button, and you get suggestions for how to complete that statement. There's project wizard, so you can create a new empty project, or you can create a new module, new empty module with scaffolding for tests and stuff like that. It's also integrated with both source code repositories. Subversion and Git comes packaged in Geppetto, so you can do all the Git and Subversion things from within the environment, and you see what's changed and can do diffs and stuff visually. It's also integrated with Puppet Forge, so if you would like to have a module included and work with, you can just create a project in Geppetto, and it pulls down that code from the Forge for you. And some new things in Geppetto 3.0 is pretty printing, so it will format your logic. It's configurable, so I'll be showing a lot of that. And what more? It understands documentation. Documentation that you've written in your manifests, or the documentation that comes with Puppet itself, all the functions and types and what have you. So you have that available. Welcome. You missed the fun part. Right. Anything I forgot to mention, Ken? Some particular features?
Mustache.
What?
Mustache.
Mustache. Yes. That's your favorite, right? Good. So, and Geppetto comes packaged, all in one download for Windows, OS X, and Linux. And just download it, it's ready to use. And we include Subversion and Git support out of the box. It's also available as Eclipse plugins, so you can mix and match in Eclipse with other types of development. There's lots of plugins for support of various languages, Java obviously, and C and Ruby and so forth. It's open source, Apache EPL project lives at GitHub. And that's where you get if you scan me. There's links at the end here too.
Are there any features not present in the Eclipse plugin that are in Snaggle?
Nope. They're all there. It's basically, the packaging we have is basically that we've decided on a set that is, we think is reasonable to start with if what you want to do is work with your Puppet logic. So that download is 75 megabytes. So it's a lot more if you download support for everything and the kitchen sink in the standard Eclipse. So some demos, or anyone else has any questions so far? All right. So I prepared lots of snippets here of demonstration. So let's just start with some. Right in the middle of everything, right? I wonder how to do this. This will work. I'm kneeling before you.
I see this as an Eclipse, right? Is it significantly different than the standalone version?
This is the standalone version, looks exactly the same. It's there's no difference. The reason is that I didn't make enough sacrifices to the demo gods, and I had to fix a bug. So this will be released like tonight or something. Where was I? Demo. So like a code completion, I started typing class foo file something, and I wonder m something, and I then get suggestions of what to pick. So I can then pick mode, and what next? Well, it shows me I'm going to use a fat arrow. Then it can't really help me because it's data. So what is it going to suggest? So I'm putting something in here.
What's the completion?
Control space. I believe you can change it if you want to. And then I don't really know what I'm doing, so I'm going to put user here, and I'm going to complete this. I'm pretending I don't know what I'm doing. User root. All right. Okay, so what's this now? I have some red markers here, and I have some things here that shows me. And what these things out here on the left show me is that Geppetto can help me. All right, so what did I do wrong here then? All right. Okay, insert the missing comma. Yes, thank you. So now we got that. User, all right. What's that all about? Why not user? And then it suggests things here. What was it I was trying to say? Oh, actually owner. Owner root, right. And debug, that sounds interesting. Oh, debug, of course, that's what I meant, right. So you get help like that, which is great if you don't know your way around all the things that are available and just typos. So code completions. This is just to show some like useful thing. If you in comments type stuff like fix me to do and use exclamation marks, those will be interpreted and show up in a task list. So that's great, especially when you're looking at someone else's code and it says to do, actually implement this, and you may want to go there and see what it is. So you can click on these and it takes you to that particular location. References. All right, so here I'm referencing something called mail password. And I'm interested, okay, so where's this mail password thing? So I'm selecting this. And in the menu, I can go open declaration. And then it knows where that thing is and takes me to that file. Right? I can also do the reverse. If I'm here at password and I want to change that, I can then say find references and go the other way around. Find references, and then it does a search because it can't just take me there because that's potentially many different places. And it says, okay, that's reference from the class bar friend of foo. All right, let's go there. And then it jumps to this other thing. So it knows about all references in both directions. So you can either do like that, or you can do command is a shortcut. It's also in one of the menus. You can say, please open a type, and then just start typing something. Or look at the list of things if you're looking for something and you would wonder where it is. And then select it. So you can open a type. Okay. We have documentation hovers. So if I write documentation like for the class here with documentation, this is then typically processed by Puppet RDoc, so to produce documentation. But you also get the documentation here. So if you hover over the name itself, you will get that documentation formatted the way it will be formatted. So with bold and italics, and code is in pre-formatted, and lists and stuff like that. Then of course if I reference this class some other place in this file or some other file like that, it will show me that documentation from the thing it's referencing. And as you can see, if we hover over some of the types and stuff available from the platform, it shows you that documentation also formatted here. So you don't have to go and look it up what it actually does. So over types and over attributes or anything that it knows about. And you see what type it is, so the bug will tell you it's a function, log a message, and so forth. That also comes with navigation, so if I press the button down here, then it jumps to the location where that thing is defined, which is the same as one of the others. But you might want to go there when you were looking at the documentation. Are we doing on time? We're doing good. Then I have a bunch of formatting things I wanted to show you. Let's start with something like formatting comments. And so you might have someone that like to put in really, really long banners. And now I think someone has already formatted this for me. Let's see if all right. Demo. I have to destroy it first. So someone wrote this comment and it's really long. And you see a black line here, and this black line, I turned that on for this demo. You don't have to see that if you don't want to. It's now set at where 80 characters is, so you get a visual clue of where formatting will fold lines, etc. And this is actually what triggered me to talk about Herman earlier, because the punch cards were restricted to 80 characters, and that's where we have that limit from, and the punch cards that later IBM used. Anyway, so if I want to format the code, I can do that. It will format this, and it will do nice things like truncate banners. Doesn't really need to fold all the extra markers, and then it wrap the text. If there's no margin in the comments, it will be inserted. Sometimes comments include really long URLs and stuff, and they need to be preserved verbatim. They can be preserved by using $signs around them. Then the long text will be folded, but this thing can't be formatted, so it does what it's supposed to do and ignore that. You can use multi-line comments, and if you use the variation of tab settings and expand spaces and what have you, and they look like this, formatting will figure that out, and it's the same comment, even though you see there's asterisks and stuff missing in the middle here. It figures out where the margin is and helps you make that pretty again. If we have something like this with a really long comment at the end, and we format that, it will do a hanging comment, and if you format again, it will still be hanging there, so it understands that it's a comment block that should belong together. So, all right, whoops. It's kind of difficult to maneuver this standard like this. Was there one I didn't do? No, I did that. And I did that. Let's look at some other things. We have resources. You can format this. It pretties it up. As you see, the first one is kept. There's an option to keep short resources, simple and compact, where it aligns the long ones and have them on multiple lines. It does nice things to cases. And if you have long sequences of assignments like this, it will cluster them based on grouping on size. So they're nice and easy to read. And if you do things like plus equals and stuff like that, it'll figure that out as well. All right, my knees are killing me. That was formatting, and this is controlled in preferences. So many of the things you saw there, you can do like that. So you can select when you want things to be triggered, always, if it doesn't fit on the line, or never, and things like that. You can also adjust many of the comment formatting things here to suit your needs. And these settings can be saved either as global settings, or you can save them in the actual projects. And let's see. So that was formatter things, indentation and the preferred max width and things like that are also controllable from here. This is also where you control the validation you saw earlier. We divided them up into like potential problems that they are by default warnings, and stylistic problems, they are ignored by default, but you can turn them on. And as soon as you turn them on, it rechecks everything in your workspace, and so you can see those errors. You can control all the syntax coloring of everything. If you like some other color scheme, you can use templates. I don't have any here. Takes a little bit time to set them up, but if you are typically doing the same thing over and over again, you can do a little template for that and invoke that with code completion, and it will mix in the templates, and then you get like a little form that you fill out. Auto edits, it completes automatically several things as you type, closing off strings and comments and stuff like that. And you can do things automatically when things are when you save a file, like automatic formatting or trim lines and clean up a couple of things. Some other aspects of this is you can specify the Puppet target version that you are checking against, and this means that you don't have to have Puppet installed to check. And if I change this here, it will then, for instance, there's a new keyword called unless in 3.0. So if you select 3.0, it will know about that it's allowed. If you're checking for 2.7, it's not allowed, and 2.6 not allowed, etc. So it knows, and it also knows about many of the quirks of 2.6, 2.7, and so forth. So you can select that. I think that was about it for a lot of the preferences. A couple of more things. I go new. Whoops. I have the Puppet stuff here, so I can create new manifest. It's just an empty file, and new empty Puppet project. if I do a module project, my module, finish, oops, not intended. This is what my work environment looks like. Sorry about that. I have no clue as to what is happening right now. What we will do is like that, and all right, it did create the module. I don't know what happened. So I got the scaffolding, like a manifest for a class called my module and so forth, and some rig files and some scaffolding for the testing and things like that. Let me see, am I on the network? Yes. We see if we can pull down a module from the Forge as well. So I'm pressing select, we'll see if this works. Calls out to the Forge internet operation. This is the thing I thought would crash. Let's say something from Puppet Labs perhaps today. Let's pick something like standard lib. All right, I want that. Okay. Finish. And I have standard lib. Right? There's something wrong here. I wonder what. Nope. This will just. Oh, anyway, so we pulled in all the code. I think my time's up, and questions? We turn on the light, perhaps.
Can you automatically recognize defined types and things like that?
Yes.
Can it also where you work to you have your models separate by big projects? Can it cross-read all of
Yes.
them?
It resolves all the references based on the dependencies that are specified in the module files. If you don't have those, you can link up the projects manually if you like. I use that sometimes to fake not having all the modules. Then I create a fake module with just some dummy classes in it, and then just say this project depends on my dummy thing. So that's how it is.
Or Geppetto perspective.
There's no specific perspective. No, you can mix it in any other perspective. There's a nature.
Okay. Sure.
So, and you can attach that nature to any type of project.
Cool.
It suggests that you do that if it finds a PP file and you open that.
Do you have any competitors?
Competitors?
Are there other products that are IDEs for
Nope.
Then
What?
VI.
VI and some syntax coloring and stuff. No, so no competitors.
Does it work with Hire?
It works with Hyra, yes. I mean, from this perspective, Hyra is just functions that you can call. So it knows about those functions. Yes.
does it integrate well with an island? Is it like
I haven't tried. I expect it to.
I hope so. He's got all the internal references, right, to like
What you're
Redone.
editing and things like that. So if you want focus-driven issue management thing, yes. Yeah.
What's new in 3.0?
The new things in 3.0 is the formatting, so the pretty printing things, documentation, hovers, lots of extra, more validation of stylistic things, more quick fixes. There's about 100 things logged and fixed, plus more things, just maintenance things. So biggest release so far.
Does it try to enforce the style then?
That's the stylistic things. If you turn on all of them, you have a pretty good coverage of the style guide. Some things are kind of hard. It's kind of vague. Avoid complex expressions. I don't know. What's that? Multiplication? But a fair share of them are there. There will be more things. All right. I expected one question. What happened to Herbert? So what became of Herman Hollerith?
I saw you came on the IBM.
Right, he came up with lots of machines, and his company merged, and it became IBM. This was their first logo, and he was very happy with his stuff. Thank you very much.